Good. Everyone online, you can hear us. Hi, Nadine.
Brittany,
hear you.
Okay.
do you have an agenda that you could send us? It wasn't on the website.
I'm trying to do it right now, maybe.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, we don't have Jenny here, so that's our excuse.
Good luck dealing with us for the next couple of months.
All right. Thanks for everyone venturing out today. We'll call the meeting to order at 8:24. We'll start with the reading of our mission statement. Lewis County Economic Development, through its board, the IDA, and its brand, Naturally Lewis, are championing the growth of a community where people want to live, work, build business, and play. We foster forward thinking and relationship building, connecting people, businesses, partnerships, and resources to effectively and efficiently grow our county. All right. So with that, any privilege of the floor, or will that be during the discussion?
We don't have any privilege.
All right, Kaylee sent out the minutes from the November meeting last week. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? Any questions? Motion to approve. Herb, second. Jessica, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Financial reports were also shared last week. Cheyenne.
All right. Nothing huge going on in October. I will highlight the accounts receivable line on the balance sheet. Came down a little, but we still have that US Light Energy Copenhagen solar pilot invoice outstanding for the IDA fee. So that's what remains on that line. We're working towards the closing on that, but we're probably a month out. If I had to guess, at least a month out, knowing that company. The other line I wanted to highlight on that is under liabilities, the accounts payable have decreased significantly from last month. That was the JCC childcare invoice we had, where we paid in full, and then JC Economic Development reimbursed us for half of it. Any questions on the balance sheet? Move on to the profit and loss. Lines I wanted to call out here were on contract revenue. We're starting to get the Launch LC grants out, and with those, it's $200,000 grant fund. $20,000 of that will be administrative. So you see some of that heading on contract revenue line in October as we start to push those funds out. You also see on the other income line right below that, that's the county writing us the check for those grants, and then down under expenses, CDBG grant, you see it going right back out. So it's just a pass through. The only other line I wanted to call attention to is the revenues and fees. Those are the Martinsburg CSG pilot, as well as the Roaring Brook pilot administrative fees. We have 1 year left of Roaring Brook administrative fees, and then we won't see that annually anymore. But specifically, if you look at that line, the revenues fees line, we are tracking over twice our budget, our year-to-date budget, and probably will hit twice our annual budget on that line. We don't really budget for the solar administrative fees because we just don't what's gonna come in the course of a year, so we budget way low, and that's a nice line to see run high. That's all the notables I had on that. Any questions on the profit and loss? Since we didn't have a finance committee meeting this month, you've also got the monthly expenditures if you want to review those. You'll see at the top of those is the Launch LC grants going out. That's the big ones. What's that? That's all I've got on financials.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Any questions? Motion to approve the financials for October. Tom, second. Kenzie, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to items for approval. First one is the final resolution for Domagala Solar. Do we want to,
Do you want me, this is for the approving resolution. This resolution authorizes the IDA to enter into all the documents for the project. Plus, it outlines the benefits the company is receiving on the attached exhibit. So you need to review those benefits to make sure that's actually what is going to be provided. Because if it changes at all, then we have to amend the approving resolution.
Right, so they had applied for the pilot, the mortgage reporting tax exemption, as well as the sales tax exemption of this project. And that's all I outlined in the expected benefit section.
Which company is this?
This is,
This is Domagala.
Saturn.
yeah, so Saturn Energy, but the project name is Domagala.
Okay, yeah, I realize that, but I just wondered, have we done much of any with this?
This is the first project with them. They've been good to work with. Have showed up for the public hearing, have been in pretty good contact with the town of Lyken, I'd say. We did hold the public hearing and had some conversation as we were there, but nothing against the project.
any other questions?
This is a project that lies 100% on prime or private drained farmland. And so their pilot rate reflects
Pretty much
that.
adjacent to Easter, is it?
It's the Millick farm or Millick Domagala.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with it, but I just was wondering which road with access was there.
I have to bring it up again.
I mean, probably could be Rug Road too.
It might be down on
Yes, East Road, 3127 East Road.
So no other questions, so we will need a roll call vote on this. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Herb, a second. Tom. All right, so just go around the room here. Darlene,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joe, yes. Goggin excused. All right, thank you for that.
Yeah, next up, we just have resolutions for ClearPath Energy, their projects over on the Brewery Road. For one's named Zare and one's named Barney, that really narrows down where they are. But it's just changing the beneficiary, which is pretty typical of these projects. They get sold 100 times usually. Do you have anything else?
I'm sorry, we expect to close both of these deals this month. And this is just to change the name because, like Cheyenne said, they sold it, so we just need to consent to their change in the project beneficiary.
Which these are the ones that are actually pretty cool. They sent some pictures along of, they built them such that they could still mow the hay underneath them, which is pretty cool.
Is this light energy again, or?
No, this is Clear Path Energy, and they've been
Clear Path.
excellent to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have three projects going in, and well, these two and one other one in New York right now where they're being built, so the farm can still get between the rows with hay and equipment, so.
Yeah, it wouldn't work on like a Mark's farm, but it works for kind of a
Right.
dairy farm or
Smaller scale equipment, but not that that has anything to do with changing the name, but and nice to see that a company that is looking at it from that standpoint, so.
Do we have a way to factor that in, you know what I'm saying?
that is an awesome segue into our governance page.
No problem. Well, I'll put a pin in it.
So good questions, but to the matter at hand, it's just, so this is like Nadine and Cheyenne said, this is what we've become pretty accustomed to in these projects being developed and then being sold. So this is our acknowledgement of that, the new name for it, so that our pilot documentation reflects the ownership. So with that, well, if there's any other questions, and then we'll take a motion to approve the change.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, Darlene made the motion, Jessica seconded. Any discussion?
Which one is this for? Is this for Zare or Fernie?
There, sorry. All right, roll call, Darlene,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Joe, yes. Goggin excused. All right, so now moving on, this is the Farney project. So these were developed in concert with each other, as we see with a lot of these small distributed scale solar projects where they're limited to 5 megawatts. They'll have more than one project within the same vicinity. So there's no other questions here. This is the Farney project, and we'll take a motion to approve the name change.
I'll make a motion.
Herb, a second. Mackenzie, any discussion? All right, Darlene,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yeah.
Joe, yes, Goggin excused. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Nadine.
Do you want me to stay on for the rest of the meeting?
You do not have to do that.
Okay. I will just talk to you guys all later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Nadine. Have a good
Bye.
day.
You too.
All right, next on the list is the executive director's report.
Yes. So some highlights from the month of November. It was a pretty short month, given the holiday and our board meeting falls on the 1st. But I would say it's been a really busy month surrounding property stuff throughout the county. So you may have seen through some of our marketing, as we work to launch the vacant property revitalization program in January of 23. There was also the Restore New York grant opportunity for vacant buildings across New York State that could fund up to 90% of project costs to turn vacant spaces into usable spaces. So we did some outreach to the community and building owners on potential projects. Just to see, you know, what grants they could take advantage of. We worked with the planning department to get some letters of intent to apply submitted yesterday to New York State for various buildings across the county. Trying to think, we have the Lions Falls School, and this is for the Restore New York grant, Lions Falls School, the old mill building in Krogan, the old Outfitters building in Loudville, the Tug Hill Artisan Roasters Jail building in Loudville. Is that it?
Fort Lighting School.
In Port Lighting School, phase 2 of that development. So we sent in letters of intent to apply for that grant for those buildings. We received a number of other interests from other building owners that have very small, much smaller projects that would be great for the vacant property program. So we plan to continue communication with them and work with all of these building owners to bring their projects to fruition. So a lot going on in the property world. We also are working with Coughlin, thinking of internal processes here. We're looking for a new application submission portal for all of our grant, loan, incentive programs. In 2023, we are launching 4 new grant programs through the LCDC, and we need to move past fillable PDF forms because it's just a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of staff time just gathering all the paperwork that we need. So we're trying to find a software that fits and that's user friendly for both the applicant and staff and committees that need to review these projects. So that will have some sort of cost associated. So hopefully we'll have something nailed down by the end of December. And this kind of goes back to stuff that we learned at the IDA Academy that we'll talk about later, just streamlining our processes and making it easier on us to track information for applicants and projects. And then I guess the last thing I want to touch on is hopefully, I think you're all aware on the re-energy biomass situation on Fort Drum. Because of the new climate laws with New York State, they aren't recognizing re-energy as a renewable energy source. And because of that, they in turn won't receive the credits that they need from New York State in order to stay open. A decision hasn't yet been made on whether or not re-energy will shut down. But I would say over the past 6 months, the county's lobbying firm, Park Strategies, has worked with the county, Ryan and Larry and myself to set up a number of meetings with the governor's office and the executive chamber and Empire State Development. And, you know, we put together the forestry roundtable a couple of months ago. They set up a separate meeting with some governor's office folks and some local logging companies. And apparently that has been working. The governor's office is asking for more information and just are learning stuff about the local economy and loggers that they wouldn't have otherwise known about, you know, when they passed these new laws on energy and renewable energy. So again, we're still not sure what the outcome for re-energy will be, but it's been great to hear that our efforts in meeting with the governor's office have been working. So we're going to keep pushing. I think the plan is to schedule yet another meeting with some Empire State Development high up folks to really get everyone to the table with bloggers and economic development people to really talk about the impact that it's going to have, not just on re-energy and the employees there, but all of our logging companies. So again, if re-energy does happen to close.
That's about the only market for chips, I think now.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so, I mean, there's obviously the significant impact on the logging sector. There was also like 10 years ago or so, there was a big effort around willow biomass, which had its, I won't get into the issues there, but anyways, the expectation when these willows were planted is that they would be harvested every 3 years for 7 cycles, so essentially a 21-year lifespan. And we're about 10 or maybe 12 years into that. And by all accounts, I've heard from landowners that plant willows as their initial contracts are ending this year, and none of them are being renewed. So that, I mean, in that case, then they would be looking at terminating those stands or letting those fields become impermeable brush. You know, 3 or 4 harvest cycles earlier than originally anticipated. So so that's been the others, you know, so there were the 2 streams that most of that willow was going into these plants, and that as well as the you know, whatever the term, not waste, but seconds and stuff from the logging industry. So
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on my report?
all right, thank you, Brittany. So I don't think there was anything for correspondence, was there?
No.
Just a reminder that next week is the dinner celebrating our 20 under 40 recipients, and Mackenzie and Herb and Jenna from our group here, and as well as some other Lewis County folks that were recognized. So
Brittany's also the keynote speaker at that event.
so congratulations to everyone.
Thanks.
All right,
First said he was nervous. He said there's no.
moving on. Moving on to new business. The item property, Brittany already mentioned the projects committee met earlier this month. That was a joint meeting with LCDC board members. And the notes were attached to the.
Yeah, this meeting was the start of the conversation of how do we prioritize property development in Lewis County? And what's the IDA's role? What's the LCDC's role? So we haven't done much since this meeting, other than some of the outreach to the community for the grant programs that are available. But I envision another conversation here in the near future on nailing down what the IDA's role is and what the LCDC's role is, and then also identifying like what some of our partners' roles are. You know, what's planning's role in property development, what's Snowbelt's role in property development. So it was a really great conversation. You know, we talked about, you know, whether or not we want to get into owning properties and property management versus empowering property owners to do something with their buildings. And actually in the past month, we've had a couple of meetings with developers who just kind of emerged, like people have connected us with them. So yesterday we met with Curie Development Group. They're working on the JB Wise building in Watertown. I don't know if you know him, Lindsay. He was a connection through GYMO. Very much interested in revitalizing old vacant buildings. We happened to have a conversation with Mike Lundy. We talked with him many years ago, but he emerged again to talk about like Commerce Park and Business Park projects. So I think Cheyenne's vision is creating almost like the flow chart of like, here's a property, here's the path that we need to take depending on the ownership or depending on if it's in foreclosure and the type of work that needs to happen. to make it a usable space. But more to come on this conversation. It's really interesting, with the form that we sent out to the community. There are so many vacant buildings in downtowns that you don't realize that are there, and they're just sitting there and they could be used. And, you know, in the past, we've talked about like spec buildings and building like new buildings for retail or commercial, but there's so many existing buildings that we don't realize that are there and just need a little TLC. So in my opinion, that's really where we need to put our focus and figure out how to get those buildings back to productive use before we think about building them. Anything to add, Sean?
No, I think it's been a really. Everything's kind of lining up with a bunch of grant funding and a lot of conversations around where we put our priorities. The timing is just right to be moving on some properties. And whether that's us or us assisting, or my favorite is planting seeds with people as I come up with crazy ideas. I've been intern for just her ninth period, she's a high schooler this week, and I texted my husband, I said, she's either gonna think I'm a complete wacko or like love what we do by the end of the week. I'm not sure which yet, the toss up right now. But just a lot of cool opportunities, and I think the momentum is there.
Mhm.
I had a question about the last bullet under the opportunities in property development, transferring ownership from the county to the LCD. Is there a mechanism in place? Is there, like, when they come up for tax sale, how would that look? Would it be first right of refusal, or we don't have a partnership there yet?
I mean, the great thing, I guess, in one light, is that a lot of these properties, the taxes are being paid on them because people keep bringing up land bank. And that works if you've got a bunch of properties that are in foreclosure. But most of these vacant properties, the taxes are being paid, so it's not like they're coming up on foreclosure, the commercial properties. But the LCDC is the obvious choice for the county to be able to make that transfer. And I think we could formalize it a little bit more, but we have pretty good communication with them, especially on the bigger projects that they let us know if something's happening.
If it does reach that state, the county has the discretion of whether it gets put up for tax auction or not,
I
so.
think that's what I was asking.
Yeah, so
Thanks.
they have that discretion of whether it goes into the tax sale or they want to take responsibility for it, and in which case they could transfer it to.
Yeah,
Because with the example of the Lions Falls School, that's delinquent on taxes, but the county has chosen not to foreclose on that because it's just a huge liability at this point. But some properties they could choose to foreclose and put it through the auction process. Or they can, the LCDC, they can transfer it from nominal fee.
yeah, I think the county and Ryan are really motivated to work with the LCDC because, I mean, oftentimes if you put a building up to tax auction, you don't know who's gonna purchase it. You don't know if they have a good plan or are they just gonna continue to let the building sit. So if they sell it to LCDC for $1, then we can do the marketing to make sure it's the right fit. Then we have the mechanism or tools to be able to remarket that right to the right person. Just like we're doing with the Glenfield School. We will have an MOU with the county that allows us to do the marketing on behalf of the county with the intent that they will transfer it to LCDC and then we will resell to a developer.
And, I mean, an example that we've been through already, it would be the Lionsdale property, the old cogeneration site where we put out the request for
Expression of interest.
expression of interest. But, so we had a process and expectations of what someone would submit in their proposal for interest in the property, and we were able to vet that and make decisions on the project that seemed like it checked the most boxes in terms of its viability and meeting our goals for economic development, so. And I don't know if it was under, so, and we also had some discussion just about, you know, how we invest our money. I mean, we have some funds to invest, but when you start looking at the size of and scope of this sort of work, our funding is kind of a drop in the bucket, even though it seems like we have a decent amount of money. So we had some good discussion around that as well. And then, you know, Goggin used the term business plan of, you know, essentially through this, so, you know, working through looking at our finances and essentially what is our business plan in terms of the operations of our organization and the investments we make here. So I think that'll be some committee discussion and as well internally, as well as our you know, collaboration with LCDC and stuff. So.
Some more to come on that. Any other questions?
All right, we still have need for,
We don't,
have need for,
no,
okay,
and yeah, our intention was to keep December's board meeting pretty short.
all right, so if there's no other new business, we would look to adjourn the December meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Darlene, a second. Or second. All in favor?